Welcome to Get to the Hook. I am your co-host, Charles Latibeaudiere.
And I'm your co-host, Eric Colley.
And we are going to get to a legend. Actually, we're going to talk about a couple of legends today. One, sadly, we have lost, and another who is going to be immortalized by Hollywood, because that's what Hollywood does.
Biopics.
So we're going to get to a big one and a big casting announcement a little later. But first, we begin with the loss of a legend, and that is Sly Stone. Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone died at his home here in Los Angeles. He was 82 years old, had been battling a lot of different illnesses for years.
Decades.
Yeah. I mean, this is just one of those things. We were talking about it, that we had sadly written his obit at least twice before. There were times where we had information that he was close to death, and he had managed to pull out of it every time. This time he did not. His family says he passed from COPD and other complications, but just an absolute legend of if you took just his career when the band was together, you would say legend. But then what they did to impact music for decades and still today.
I can't imagine what music would sound like without Sly and the Family Stone. Like, honestly,
so
they transformed
songs.
Rock, pop, funk, soul, everything. And he spent the better part of 50 years as kind of a hermit.
Yeah.
He was very reclusive. He obviously had a lot of issues over the years. But the work he did in the late 60s and into the mid-70s with the Family Stone was transformative. And classic songs everybody knows, like People Every Day, Hot Fun in the Summertime, Stand, I Want to Take You Higher, Family Affair.
Thank You.
Thank You, we're going to play a little bit of, because this song, this is Larry Graham, his bass player, who is Drake's uncle, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
Larry Graham invented slap bass on this song, which Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers made his whole career around. And also Janet Jackson sampled this song for Rhythm Nation. This is Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again.
That riff is
I never get tired of that song.
Damn hard, man.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
I can't imagine hearing that in 1970 for the first time. Just like, what is this? Because you had funk music. Obviously, James Brown had created the template for that. There's a lot of funk groups, but that was another level.
Sound.
That was, the 70s are here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a thing. And, when we do a post, an obit on the website, we always have a discussion about, well, what song do we want to put in? It was going back and forth, everyone yelling different songs. Like, some people wanted Everyday People. My vote was Thank You. I was like, I'm sorry, guys, this riff, you cannot beat this riff.
But
I don't know if I won, by the way. I don't know what ended up going in the
I think Everyday
post.
People is what's on the site
Everyday
right now.
People.
But that is also such a catchy song. It's so much of its era.
And it's been covered
timeless
so
also.
many times.
It's covered and sampled.
So many times.
It's been in commercials. Everybody knows that song.
Yeah, and even if you are younger and you're like, well, I don't know who this guy is, but
I bet you
know
do.
you definitely know his songs. I was just trying to get like a small list of artists who had sampled Sly and the Family Stone hits, and it's not a small list. I stopped because we needed to actually get in here. But let's see: Dr. Dre, The Roots, Arrested Development, Tribe Called Quest, Jay Dilla, LL Cool J, Janet Jackson, as we talked about, Big Daddy Kane, NWA, Queen Latifah, Public Enemy, Black Eyed Peas, Cypress Hill, Kendrick Lamar.
And you missed a famous one, because also Sly and the Family Stone are responsible for one of the greatest, most sampled drum loops in history. And their song, Sing a Simple Song, and I've done this myself because I'm such a big nerd, the drum track isn't like the left or right channel. It's not all mixed together.
Right.
You can isolate the drum track, and there's one part in the breakdown. When you loop that, it becomes the drum beat from the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground, which then everybody sampled that beat from Digital Underground, but that is a Sly and the Family Stone drum loop. That beat is iconic.
Man.
Also, for you and I being huge Prince fans, Prince's band, The Revolution, was very deliberately built on the Family Stone. He wanted it to be male and female, black and white, this sort of, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-gender band.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just an optics thing for Sly Stone. All the members of the Family Stone are some of the greatest musicians of all time. it just, what a legend.
Yeah, an absolute legend. Wow.
Will we ever
Sad.
get a Sly Stone biopic?
Well, actually, according to his family, the last work that he did was a memoir, and actually they call it a screenplay, although the title of it is "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself," a memoir. But they said he wrote it as a screenplay, so certainly Sly Stone wanted his life to be told in a screenplay and by Hollywood, and I would imagine eventually it will be.
So.
But that brings us to our other topic today, and that is the Hollywood biopic, the rock or music biopic, music legends becoming a biopic. It is a formula that has worked. We always say this, that Hollywood, they're not super creative. Not as creative
Not
as
really.
you'd like to think.
No.
I mean, that's actually, I shouldn't say that. They are creative, but once they find something that works, someone creates that and they're like, this formula works, then they stick to it. And we have seen over the years so many music legends celebrated in biopics
I've got the numbers. We're going to break down the numbers in a minute
and
about why they keep making these.
Because they win awards.
They win awards and
they
make a
money.
lot of money. Yeah.
Indeed. And the latest one we found out this week is Kiss.
Kiss is getting a biopic.
I wasn't really sure how to feel about this, and I say that as a founding member of the Kiss Army.
Oh, I'm not quite a general maybe, but I'm maybe a lieutenant in the Kiss Army.
Okay.
More than a
All right.
private.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure what my rank would be, but I know people clown Kiss and they hate them. A lot of people do. I love Kiss. I make no apologies about it. It's fun. They have never claimed to be more than what they are.
Right. It's just fun, straight ahead rock and roll.
And I was a sucker for the theatrics as a kid. I
Obviously,
don't lie about that either.
That's what pulled me in as a kid too. That's why the first album I ever owned was Kiss Alive 2, and my parents gave it to me for Christmas one year. And yeah, the makeup is what the theatrics and the blood and everything sort of.
I even like, I like the 80s non-makeup years too. Lick It Up.
Yes, because by that point, then when that happened, I actually just appreciated the music, and so you stay with it. I will say the first time I saw them in concert, I was disappointed because it was in the makeup off years, but it was in a small club in was it in Tempe? It was somewhere in the Phoenix area, and small club but no makeup. And I was excited to see the music, but I walked out going,
You wish you'd seen the makeup?
I wish I'd seen the makeup.
My first big rock concert ever was when they put the makeup back on.
Oh,
and
nice.
I remember going to my brother, and he's like, "Well, this is going to ruin every other show you ever see." A little bit true.
But yes, they're going to do a biopic.
Both of us love Kiss, but I'm not sure how compelling a story this will be for a movie, because most of these stories, they center around the unraveling and the downfall, and then you see a nice, triumph at the end to sort of reclaim their glory.
They didn't have that.
Not really. I mean, you have the story with Peter Criss and Ace Frehley from Kiss that had, addiction issues, ego issues, all the things that split the band apart in the early 80s. Paul and Gene famously do not and have never done drugs. I don't think Gene has ever even drunk at all. He doesn't drink.
Yeah.
They just kept it going as a business. And I don't know
what a
how
business it's been, but I don't know
that will be.
Right, because that's the part you're missing. And I guess there's the conflict of the band, but you don't have that moment where they all get back together.
I guess you do if you skip to 96 and they put the makeup back on. So, but even that, after 2 years, that fell apart again for the same reasons it did originally.
Right.
Maybe you could go to when they got in the Rock Hall of Fame in 2014, but that was a little contentious. They are not the best of friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the.
I mean, there's a way you can definitely do it, but it's you just don't have that the typical thing you do.
It's not the usual narrative,
and you don't have the moment where, and maybe you're right. The Rock Hall of Fame is that moment for them where they are finally feel accepted, right? Because like you said, there's always been this thing where it's kind of a joke and it's the makeup and it's just theatrics, but there's usually a moment in these stories where suddenly everyone realizes how talented they are, how wow, these guys really are, a great
They get their
band.
flowers at some point.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if and I think they deserve it.
From fans, they've always had them.
Yeah.
From critics, they have never and will never.
And maybe that'll be part of the story, is just that they don't give a fuck, to be quite honest.
They were the underdogs.
Yeah.
The bajillion selling underdogs. I mean, the thing is, honestly, we talk about will it be an interesting movie or not? I'm going to go see it no matter what. I mean,
Oh yes, I'm definitely going to see it.
just to see the recreation of 70s Kiss and that live experience on a screen. But what's interesting is they've only cast one member so far. Paul Stanley, the star child from Kiss, is going to be played by Nick Jonas.
I see it.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I can totally see it.
He's got vocal chops. He can act. Let's compare the vocals a bit.
Right.
The movie is going to be called, it's going to go into production either at the end of this year or early 2026. We know the name of it is going to be, they did not go with Rock and Roll All Night. They went with Shout It Out Loud, one of their classic hits. I love this song. So this is a little bit of a live version of Kiss doing Shout It Out Loud.
Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud.
And now for comparison, here's a little bit of the Jonas Brothers' current single, Love Me to Heaven.
Give me everything, but it ain't enough. You can put a price on the human touch. I could be down, but you love me to heaven. Love me to heaven.
Not really any different. It's kind of the same thing, really. I mean, just.
But
You're wrong for doing that, Eric.
Why is that
was
wrong? No, I'm just trying to show the vocals there. Nick Jonas does have some vocal range. I think of him as
Absolutely.
being a little more like poppy, that kind of nasally singer, like pop singer than Paul Stanley. But they can both
But that's what I think will be
soar and hit
interesting.
those high notes.
Right. He has the range. It'll be interesting if he actually ends up doing the singing.
Oh, he is. He said he is.
Oh, he is going to do
yeah,
the singing.
he will
oh,
do the singing.
Well,
So I'm just
then
trying to picture
I
Nick
want to
Jonas
see him as a
singing
rock star. You
Detroit Rock City or
Yeah.
and whoever they cast for the other roles, will they sing? Whoever they cast as Peter Criss is going to have to sing Beth because you can't leave that song out.
Yes.
And honestly,
you got to do Beth.
I kind of don't mind hearing Nick Jonas do "I Was Made for Loving You." That's closer to his
Oh yes, that's
disco
definitely.
dance pop wheelhouse.
Controversial question here,
Yes.
and maybe there's just a debate in my head as a young member of the Kiss Army. Who's the true frontman of Kiss? Is there a frontman, or is it what some people would say they're co-frontmen?
I would say I'm splitting hairs distinction. I would say Paul is the frontman. I would say Gene is the star.
Ooh, that's semantics. Well, there's
But
a way to
but
get out of it.
Paul was always in the usual frontman spot, even though they
Yes.
all shared vocals. All four of them sang. Paul sang a lot of the songs. He was the one in the middle, doing all the crowd banter and keeping the energy going during their shows. He's the front man.
Right.
Gene was over there spitting blood and blowing fire and all the things he does. But Gene is the
But here's
star
the
of
thing,
Kiss.
though. Yes, he's the star of Kiss, and this is where I draw the distinction. Like, if you watch the Rolling Stones, if you go to a Rolling Stones concert, everyone always says, when the Keith set comes up, everyone goes to the bathroom. You don't do that when Gene.
No,
because Gene is sung lead
when
on
he
a lot of
flies to
their
the
huge-
rafters and does God of Thunder, or I don't think they do Christine 16 anymore because
Yeah,
that
for
song,
obvious
I'd say didn't
reasons.
age well. It's about being in love with a 16-year-old schoolgirl, and it was creepy in the 70s.
It was never clear how old they were, though. What if you don't know? Maybe
I
it was a
sat outside the school
17-year-old
watching her.
Oh.
Like,
Oh yeah,
it's not very ambiguous. But Dr. Calling
Different
Dr.
time.
Love. I
Calling
mean,
Dr. Love. Yeah.
yeah, come on.
Yeah. So I, in my head, I always wondered, like, yes, Paul was the traditional frontman, but it always seemed like Gene was just as much a showman, and I guess that's the way you I like that.
Because when people think of Kiss, I think they probably first think of Gene
they
Simmons.
think Gene Simmons,
Because
they
he's
think
just
the blood,
such
they
a
think
bigger
the
personality. And he had the reality show, and he's always so outspoken and controversial and always pissing people off.
tongue. Right.
Paul Stanley's like, I'm here to play and sing. And I think he takes the music more seriously, maybe. Not that
Right.
Gene isn't into his bass playing, but, I think Paul thinks of, like,
Himself as
I'm writing songs. Gene's like, I'm here to put on a show.
just putting on a show.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. So, we have some big.
We have
Now-
so many. So people say,
People say-
we're tired of biopics. Well, get ready, because Kiss is coming.
Maybe on the other end of the spectrum, some people would say. We also
The other,
have
the other Fab Four?
the other, the other Fab Four. Yes, the
yeah, the
Beatles,
Beatles.
biopic.
Four biopics.
Yeah.
We've got 4 of those coming. Those are due out in April of 2028. I don't know if they're all 4 coming out at once or in successive weeks.
Right.
Don't know exactly what story it's telling yet. It's just that it's from the perspective of the
Of
different
each
band members.
member, yeah.
I don't know. Is this going to be like an Avengers thing where Samuel L. Jackson shows up as Brian Epstein at the end and is like, Paul McCartney, I've got this Beatles initiative I want you to be a part of. And then we get like, the Beatles Avengers movie. But The cast for that, Harris Dickinson, who was in the Nicole Kidman movie Baby Girl last year, was sort of a heartthrob in that movie, a very sexual movie. He's John Lennon. Paul Mescal from Gladiator 2 is Paul McCartney. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things and Fantastic Four is George Harrison. And Barry Keoghan from Saltburn and Dating Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, that's what he's famous for. He's Ringo.
Yeah.
And Sam Mendes is directing this, who's a very respected director, did
Oh, yeah.
Skyfall, 1917. Do people want 4 Beatles movies at once?
I want to live in a world where they do.
Yeah.
I fear that we are in a world where they're just kind of over it. I don't know that
But
this
maybe
is going to find...
one, like a Beatles biopic, yes. 4 individual movies. Do people go to see Barry Keoghan starring in a movie about Ringo Starr?
I think the cast that they've assembled hopefully is going to draw those younger viewers. Because I hear so many younger people, and I'm not saying that they have to love the Beatles, but I am shocked at the level of disrespect for the Beatles that I hear in the younger generation.
The ones who don't like it are the loudest, but if you look at the Beatles streaming numbers, which is mostly driven by younger generations, they have huge streaming numbers. Like I think like 30 million monthly listeners or somewhere around there on average. Young people still listen to the Beatles.
And
I think they always
and I would say older people stream music also, damn it.
They do, but they're not the majority. They're not the driving factor. That's why if you look at the most streamed artist, it's younger artists. But
forgotten again.
it's because we bought it all on CD.
Yeah.
We got duped into buying it the first time.
Damn Columbia House. Anyway.
Yeah. So we got the 4 Beatles movies coming. Which one do we think will do the best? Harris Dickinson, I would say, is probably the least famous of the 4 of them, but it's John Lennon.
Yeah.
And Lennon's, and I don't know if it's going to be the
McCartney,
whole life.
Right? It's got to be McCartney.
But is his story that interesting? John Lennon's is a more interesting
John Lennon's
story,
is definitely the better.
There's tragedy to it. There's all the traditional music biopic elements to it. Paul McCartney's just been phenomenally successful for 60 years.
Much the way the band was viewed this way, I think the sleeper is George Harrison.
Yeah. George
who also had a very, but again, it depends on which stages. Are they just telling their lives leading up to the Beatles, or are they telling their lives?
I have no idea.
Up to the Beatles, and then what their lives were like after the Beatles? Just depends.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of story they're going to tell, and we don't really know that yet. Another update, the Michael Jackson biopic, Michael, due still in 2026, stars Jermaine's son, Jafar, Michael's nephew. They just had to reshoot the third act. The story was that they covered Michael Jackson's 1993 child molestation allegations and the settlement with Jordan Chandler, which they...
that they had made no reference to.
Yeah, that they found out that actually the settlement was that they could never talk about it, make money on it. Now, Lionsgate, the studio, is denying that's the reason for any reshoots. So who knows? But there were reshoots.
Whatever the reason, there are reshoots, and the movie's not coming out now when it was supposed to come out this fall.
It's supposed to be out this fall. Now it's pushed to next year. And there's debate back and forth. I've seen some things saying this is happening, it's not happening, that it's going to be split into 2 parts. That the first part will end right after Off the Wall comes out in 1979, and Michael leaves the Jacksons and goes solo. Leading up to Thriller would be the second movie, and then the rest of his life. Or it's going to be one...
That would work.
Because the original movie was 4 hours long.
Oof.
So now the back and forth
Even
I've
for
read
Michael.
is it 2 movies or is it 1 movie that's now going to run 3.5 hours?
You can't do a 4-hour movie.
That's a lot.
I mean, when you get to 3 hours, I'm like, come on, man, I don't care who it is. And Michael Jackson, certainly there's enough there, but you just can't hold an audience. You can't make people sit there that long.
Yeah.
And when are you going to get up and go to the bathroom?
Exactly.
There's never
a good part.
Again,
maybe during Ben.
Maybe that's an old man problem. Another old.
I can't hold it for 2 hours. These kids and their movies. And the last one, update. Remember the Madonna biopic that was happening that she was going to direct, and she had written all of her memoirs, and it was going to happen. Then it got canceled. Julia Garner from Ozark was playing Madonna. So recently, in the last few weeks, I've just seen this update on this because, as far as I knew, that project was dead in the water. It wasn't happening. It is going to happen now. It is not going to be a movie. Madonna has inked a deal with Netflix for a series.
Oh.
Which actually is kind of cool because Madonna has been such a part of pop culture for so long. Like you said, 3 hours as a movie is too much.
Right.
But like a 10-episode series chronicling her life.
That people not only will sit through, but they will enjoy sitting through it. And like you break it up into episodes like that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way to go is the bio series.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would work with Michael Jackson, too.
Yes.
And the Beatles. Honestly, all these people that have such deep catalogs. That's what you say. Why do they keep making these things? People are just like, ugh, another one, because there's such a formula to them. A lot of them, they're similar stories. They're told in a similar way. Let's break down some numbers, because you know how I love numbers.
Indeed.
In the last 20 years, let's say, A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic with Timothée Chalamet, made $140 million, got 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. Did not win them, but still, 8 nominations. Bob Marley, One Love, also last year, $180 million at the box office. Elvis in 2022, the Baz Luhrmann movie, $288 million, 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Actor. Rocket Man, 2019, the Elton John movie, $195 million. Taron Egerton won a Golden Globe for Best Actor. Elton John won an Oscar for the original song, for his song, I'm Gonna Love Me Again. The one that really is the king of the hill of all of these, and the reason we keep getting so many, Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic, 2018, $910 million, nearly $1 billion at the box office.
That's the one, honestly, that's the one that shocked me. I didn't think that...
It was that great?
One, I didn't think it was, the film itself was that great.
And lots of inaccuracies.
A lot of inaccuracies. And I didn't know that the music was still that...
Oh, Queen? And that's a thing, too.
I love it,
love
and
them.
I know that there's, 2 songs that everybody always knows, right? And I didn't think that was going to be enough to draw that kind of box office.
But this is the other upside of this for not just the artists, the ones who are still alive, like Elton John, or the record labels, the movie studios. In addition to making a lot of money and winning a lot of awards for these movies, they introduced the catalog to younger people. So after the Bohemian Rhapsody movie came out, Queen's that had top 10 albums again, Queen's Greatest Hits, has not left the top 100 of the Billboard charts in 6-7 years at this point. Younger fans have now discovered all of these Queen songs and listened to them nonstop. And it's not that Queen wasn't Queen,
right.
But yeah.
And so for whoever owns the music rights, if it's a record label or the family, then estate, it makes sense. You're like, yeah, definitely go ahead, use whatever you want, make the movie, because we're ultimately going to make more money on the back end.
Elton John's catalog has seen sustained streaming spikes as people discover his catalog. When you have artists with these deep catalogs of really good songs, it just keeps it going. Some other ones, Straight Outta Compton, made $201 million. Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash movie, $186 million. And Reese Witherspoon won Best Actress for that one, for playing June Carter Cash. Ray Charles, 2004, Ray, $124 million, 6 Oscar nominations, and Jamie Foxx won for Best Actor. There's an upside to all these. Some flopped.
So what I was going to say, the actors, by the way, for the actors, that's what's in it, right? Because they know if it's done well, regardless of whether people love the music or they're just mid on it, for the actors, they know that they're going to get they're going to get recognition.
Probably an Oscar nomination.
And they're going to get nominated.
Will Nick Jonas get one for playing Paul Stanley? Because critics do hate Kiss so much.
Right.
Can they separate that from, wow, what if he's really, really good in this?
That's the uphill battle for the Kiss movie and for the actors in the Kiss movie, is that you are going up against critics who have never been Kiss's biggest fans.
And Kiss long ago just gave up on ever caring about critics.
Yeah.
So if it's just introducing their music to younger fans and giving older fans a new way to see them and hear the songs, I think that's all they care about. And making money. Because
they're a business, man.
They are a business. Some of the ones that flopped surprised me. Remember Respect in 2021, the Aretha Franklin biopic with Jennifer Hudson? That should have been a slam dunk. Made $32 million. The budget was $55 million. It lost.
I don't know why that flopped.
I don't either. Get On Up, the James Brown biopic. That was in 2021. So that was between Rocket Man and Elvis. It should have done well.
Yeah.
Get On Up, the James Brown biopic with Chadwick Boseman, only made $33 million. The Runaways, do you remember that movie in 2010 with Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning?
Oh, yes.
About the group, The Runaways, with Joan Jett and Lita Ford, only made $4 million. But also you could argue The Runaways were never that well known.
And they weren't really mainstream.
Not really.
Yeah.
But some other classic ones. When I think of music biopics, obviously in recent years you think of Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man and Elvis and those movies. The classic ones, because this has been going on forever. It's a bigger business now, I think, because of the success of Bohemian Rhapsody. Selena in 1997 made $35 million, which was a decent take in 1997. The bigger thing was that it launched Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
The Doors in 1991 with Val Kilmer. The one that I always think of, and maybe you do too, La Bamba in 1987.
Yeah.
$54 million, which was a lot in 87. I love that movie, and I don't know if I really knew who Richie Valens was when I saw it.
I didn't really. I mean, I had heard the songs, but I didn't know who Richie Valens really was.
And then that movie still, I haven't seen it in decades because it's just so sad. I remember my mom crying at the part when Richie's mom screams, "Not my Richie!" Oh, that just still gets me because it's hard to make a movie like that. Like you couldn't make one about Aaliyah, I think, because it's not. Even like Freddie Mercury dying of AIDS at 45 was tragic and horrible.
Right.
But he got to be in his 40s. His legacy was set.
Right.
He was Freddie Mercury, and he knew it.
Right.
Even Elvis at 42 when he died, same thing.
They were.
Richie Valens was 17, had just started his career, and then suddenly he's gone in a plane crash. And also somebody else in that plane, going back to 78, the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, yes.
got an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
That movie cost $2 million to make and made $14 million. And again, this is 1978, so it's a lot more money. But it goes back even further.
Really?
I was shocked.
How much would you pay?
Yeah, the Glenn Miller story starring Jimmy Stewart.
Okay.
No, third highest grossing film of 1954, got 3 Oscar nominations. But wait,
it goes back further
this
than
is
that?
the most ridiculous one.
Glenn Miller, that's it. You've lost me.
No. Glenn Miller's from like the late 30s and 40s. We're going further back.
Okay.
1946, The Jolson Story,
a
biopic of Al Jolson.
Yes,
One of the most successful entertainers of the first half of the 20th century.
Also
doesn't age well because he mostly performed in blackface and sang the song Mammy. So,
that's the clip I always remember from that movie. I've never seen the whole thing, but yes.
Yeah, that.
Clip.
But this is the crazy thing about that. The Jolson Story comes out in 1946. Al Jolson's career had already cooled off by that point. He was big in like the 1920s. It revives interest in his career. People started buying his records. The movie made $7 million. They made a sequel.
What?
It was a biopic that got a sequel. 1949, Jolson Sings Again became the highest grossing film of the year, got 3 Oscar nominations, and they were like, the rest of the story. But then that was it because that came out in 49. Al Jolson died in 1950, so there was really nothing left to do.
And we're done.
He got a sequel to a biopic.
Wow. See, there just proves the point about Hollywood. Once they knew something worked, even in 1940, whatever, they knew, we got to get another Jolson pick.
Yeah, I think that's probably why the Glenn Miller movie happened with Jimmy Stewart. They're like, hey, that Jolson movie made money. We got to make another one.
And there was no blackface in that one, so shout out Glenn Miller.
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart.
And Jimmy Stewart.
So the biopics, they're going to keep coming.
They're going to keep coming. I'm looking forward to seeing what Nick Jonas does as Paul Stanley.
And who do they cast as Gene Simmons?
And I want it, exactly.
It won't be the other Jonas brothers.
Yeah. Gene Simmons is going to sneak in and try to audition. You're like, who's this guy?
That would be so funny if Gene played Gene with Nick Jonas as Paul Stanley.
Exactly.
So we'll find out. I'm sure they'll announce that soon.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Play whatever you're doing. Stream some Sly.
Yeah.
Definitely. They deserve it.
Just remember it, or if you're not familiar with it, listen to it because you will love it. Right. And it's June, hot fun in the summertime. That song is a perfect summer song to this day.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time. Get to the hook.